Every time I speak about Raag, I think I will need like 5 lifetimes to even learn one Raag properly, because the complexity that there is there, it's just immense.
What is the impact of Kirtan on someone's mental well-being? Mental well-being is like such a big thing now in society. When we listen to Kirtan, we feel good. And I can tell you one thing, the Guru knew that Kirtan is going to have such a beautiful mental impact, a spiritual impact, a social impact, a societal impact on people's lives. We still haven't discovered all of that. Western world and the whole world need to understand that what we're doing with Kirtan is actually extremely layered. It's very complex. Bila Saj Sikho, and then sing Gurbani with the Saj as well.
And vocal actually be in tune.
We've never gone out there and told the world that this is what Kirtan is. Now we're getting newspapers, media, radio stations all over the world. This has just exploded. People are wanting to know, what is this? Students in India have been ditching the sitar and going to violin. I'm going to say to Western audiences,
Ditch the violin. Ditch the violin.
Ditch the violin. Give this a try. Let your child have a go. Kirtan isn't restricted, but you have to be a Sikh to do Kirtan. Bani is universal. How many times have you had people coming to you saying, Hanji o janda siga sikhn par sikhya nahi kuch? They just feel that their development has stalled and the kids aren't learning anything. Well, now it's quite simple. We measure the learning. Are they getting the grades? Yes or no? Yes, they are. Okay, they're learning something. Simple.
So welcome back to the Base of Sikhi podcast. Today we've got a very exciting episode planned with two very special guests. So Dr. Harjinder Singh Lallie and Sukhmani Kaur, who works very closely with us in E13. So today we're going to talk about Sikh Raag. Just to start off with, let's learn a bit more about you guys. So Dr. D, if you want to just introduce yourself.
I'm Harjinder Singh Lallie. My day job is that I'm a lecturer in cybersecurity at the University of Warwick, but my passion for the last 50 years, maybe 48 years, has been Kirtan. And for at least kind of maybe 30 of those years, it's been Tanti Saj Kirtan, kind of going back to the roots of our Kirtan.
Betty?
My name is Sukhmani Kaur. I work with you guys. And
it's the first time we've had you on us, all right?
I know you've been trying for a long time, but finally, because of Virji. So yeah. So I've been learning Kirtan for 23 years, and maybe 22 of those on Dilruba. So a long-standing interest and passion, and a big part of my life.
Good. And just one of the first questions, where did this interest come then for Kirtan?
For me, it was, we have to go back to when I was maybe 4 years old, and we're talking, 1970s, in the days when there was only one Gurdwara in Birmingham, and possibly in the Midlands, and everyone used to go to that one.
That's hard to believe in.
Yeah,
that is true. I mean, there was so much, I was only 3-4 years old, but I do remember the Pyar, people travelled 30 miles just to come to the Gurdwara.
Which Gurdwara was that?
Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smithik.
Oh, theek.
And at the time, there used to be lots of Raagi Jathe coming, but the one that really touched me was when Sant Miha Singh came, and he was maybe late 60s at that time. And he used to do Kirtan on the Jodi, which now you think about it, it's quite weird, doing Kirtan on the Jodi.
So just to explain to the viewers, like, what is a Jodi as well?
A Jodi is, so we're all used to a tabla, which has the small ura, and what we call a dugi, which has the ink on it, the bigger, bassier component of the pair. And a Jodi is much bigger, and you put atta on it. And that's back in the day, that's how we used to play it. And the pura is not a small one, it's always bigger. So it's very heavy. The sound is just completely different. And as time progressed, over I don't know how many 100 years, we maybe got a bit lazy and we couldn't be bothered to carry atta with us everywhere, or it was too heavy. I don't know what the actual reasons are, but we settled on the tabla. But what Babaji used to do was do it on the Jodi. And it wasn't just them, but I remember when I was little sitting in the Darbar Sahib with people like Professor Sandok Singh and a guy called Ban Singh Malli, who later would turn out to be related to me because he was on my wife's side. But they used to do Kirtan on the floor at Smethwick High Street. And Ban Singh Malli used to do Kirtan on the Jodi as well. So it's just those memories as a child that I just grew up listening to Kirtan. So those are my earliest memories. That's how I got into it. Benji?
I really
Which Godur was in Russia at that time?
No, actually, I don't know. I think maybe when I started learning Punjabi, the way I started learning it is I was reading Hukamnaman, I was reading translations. And when at that time was only Sikhnet around. And then I think I maybe came across Kirtan for the first time probably as a 3HO version. And actually, I remember they used to do what we call Simran, but they used to call it meditation, right? So that will be just like Mool Mantar or something like that. So that will be the first first time exposed to any kind of Kirtan. But then, weirdly enough, thinking about it, I think probably the first Kirtan I actually liked was Raag Kirtan, so it would be by Balbir Singh Ji. And actually, when I came first to India in 2000, one of the first people I actually met was by Balbir Singh Ji. I had no clue who they were. I had literally no clue. I'm so gutted because I was in the same room with them and I was oblivious. Yeah.
So what is, because we've talked about Kirtan and Raag Kirtan, but specifically what is Raag Kirtan? What does it mean? And what's the difference between like normal Kirtan and Raag?
Well, that's a very, very complex, or the answer is very complex. The question is quite simple. So, I mean, look in the Guru Granth Sahib, almost every single shabd is preceded with the title Raag of the shabd. So you get Tanasri Mahla Chauthai Chapur Sarif Sugdata Harjake Vase Kapte. And it started with the word Tanasri. The first word was the name of the Raag. So what the Guru did was when Guruji when they compiled the Guru Granth Sahib, they compiled it to a framework of music and a framework of Raag. And there was a reason why they did that. They didn't just randomly pick shabds and just put them in random rags. There's a deep founded reason why they did that. And I think we are only even now just discovering the depth of that musical framework that they created and they placed the shabds into. And normal kirtan is pick any shabd, pick any rag. It doesn't even have to be a rag. You probably don't even know what the rag is. Just the tune sounds really good. And just put the shabd on that tune. And Sangat says, "Wah wah balle balle," and that's it. Everyone's happy. But that is pandering to the kind of, sounds horrible, but pandering to the Sangat. They just want joyous, happy Kirtan. But it's not creating any kind of spiritual connection in my view, or it's not creating any kind of deep founded spiritual connection in the way that the Guru intended it to be. That's my interpretation.
I agree with you. So Gurmat Sangeet is basically delivering the Shabad in the way that Guru prescribed it, and it's not easy because apart from understanding the Shabad, you have to understand this whole concept, musical concept, which is a completely different world. So it's few levels higher than just being able to deliver the meaning of the Shabad.
And just to go more specifically in what is Raag specifically, because I know like some people might say, okay, it's a sargam, you sing these notes, but I think maybe more it's the patterns and the way that you sing them, right? The order that you sing them, which makes the Raag, which is so much more than that. But what do you think?
Yeah, so that is, we've only got 7 keys to play with, 7 surah. Yeah, that's all we've got to play with. And what we have is we have a structure. We have what we call the ascending scale, the arohi, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, the surah that we picked there. The descending scale that is again within that rag. Change one of those surah. So instead of sa re, go sa re, just changing one sur changes the complexion of the whole spiritual and musical experience. And it's so, it's kind of quite mind-blowing how changing one sur can have so much spiritual and emotional impact on you. That's why I say that what Guruji did with how they constructed that framework was so deep founded that we still do not understand it. We're still all trying to discover this magical kind of jaddu element, whatever they've done. And I don't know if that has explained it well in terms of the Arohi of Rohi and the structure of the Rag.
I guess there's kind of another view of it, that the Rag actually is not the purpose is the Shabad. So the Rag is the vehicle of how you deliver the Shabad, but the vehicle, it doesn't come with a manual either. You have to spend lifetime trying to decide to understand how it works. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I often describe it as every Rag, most Rags have an emotion. They evoke an emotion. And Jad, to see, there's some shabds in the Guru Granth Sahib. When we look at Bhagat Namdev's life experience, he's describing what happened to him. This is what happened to me, guys. I came to the mandir. I was really excited. I wanted to pray. I thought, this is it. I don't care what restrictions. It is a low need Jad Sigi. He was allowed in the mandir, right? All kinds of torture, or God knows what would happen to him. But he thought one day, you know what? I'm going for this. I'm going to do this. Went to the mandir. I was laughing. I was so looking forward to this, man. Got to the mandir, started to pray, and the pandits at the mandir found out that a low caste Hindu has walked into our mandir, and they beat him up, right? And they beat him up, threw him out. And the whole Shabd describes this heart-wrenching experience that he underwent. So what did Guruji do? Guruji thought, this is actually quite a sad state of affairs, that people can't pray in a mandir because of their jad. So they picked that Shabd and they put it into Pero. They wanted Pero, as Benji says, to be the vehicle to project what happened there. Now, if someone takes that Shabd and they put it on a really joyous tune, jumpy, snazzy, Bollywoody, you don't get the impact of what Bhagat Namdev was feeling, right? He's crying out to God. He's saying, Bhagat Karta Nama Pakar Uthaya, main to teri bhagti karta siga and I got beaten up, right? You just don't get that feeling. So what I'm saying is that how can you convey all the meanings of the Shabd, the full meaning of the Shabd, without understanding the Rag and projecting it using that Rag? So I like that vehicle analogy, right? Because we have different vehicles to project.
And Pero Rag, that is evoking more of a emotional kind of...
It's kind of... This is interesting because my perception of Pero, it is quite somber. It's a morning Rag, the Re, both the Re and the Da do bring out those feelings, and the way you play with the Da, just playing with this one sort can create that impact on your, your listening experience. Add to that the words, and it's just, completely different experience. Is that would you agree with that?
It's like every time I speak about Rag, I think I will need 5 lifetimes to even learn one Rag properly, because the complexity that there is there, it's just immense. And Guru Sahib they haven't made it easy for us, apart from just, there's so much stuff in it. Shabad, Rag, then the instrument. How do you even play? How do you get this out of the instrument? It's years and years of riyas, which...
The analogy I use is, look, people are still, hundreds of years later, standing there analysing the Mona Lisa. It's a painting. But, 200, I don't know how many years later it's been, people are looking at it with a new set of eyes, and they're finding something else in there that people didn't find 200 years ago. So with Rag, the way I describe it to everyone is it's a blank canvas, and when I teach students, I'm going to say, look, I'm going to try and paint something for you, and in your mind's eye, I just want you to conceptualize it. And I do my best, right? And as people get more and more into it, each painting looks a bit different. But the general broad feeling of that painting is the same. So it's Malar, for example, rainy season rag. You know, there's going to be rain in that painting. We're all going to agree on that. Yeah, there's going to be rain, but your painting might look a bit different to mine. But generally, we all agree that it's a rainy painting. Then there's rag that are quite sad. You know, Sajjan des Vadesriya Sanehre Dendi. You know, this is you know, the way I describe that shabd is ke someone's gone dur gayo and we're missing them. We often use a husband-wife analogy. It can be the other way around, right? It can be a wife that's gone away and a husband's missing her. But Sajjan des Vadesire, they've gone very far away. Sanehere Dendi, I'm sending messages, writing letters. You get this immediate projection of someone sitting sad, you know, it's not the happiest scene. And so we can agree on that. And then you can paint your own painting of exactly how it looks. And that's often an analogy that I use. So Benji's point about lifetimes, I totally get that, because lifetimes later, we're still sitting there analysing the Mona Lisa. People are still writing PhD thesis about it.
I've got art history masters, so I can totally relate to that.
I really like that. And you know what? Another thing that's really amazing is you've identified that the rag gives the context to the shabads as well, which is a really important thing, which I think people don't realize. And then maybe just even on even a scientific level, you could say that like there's this pankti rag naad sab sach hai qeemat kahin na jaye, right? That then that naad, that sound, that vibration, which we think that the whole universe was created on, that's as Sikh that we believe, right? And even scientifically, they're saying this now. We're connecting to these different vibrations, and that's what Guru Sahib has kind of unlocked for us. This is the beautiful thing about Gurbani. Whatever avastha you're at, you're going to see the Shabad in a different way, and you're going to realize more things as you go. And like even we were speaking to Gursikh Mataji, who is a Shahid Bhai Singh's wife, and she was just telling us like art of Gurbani one day, like art of Jap Sahib and stuff. And we were like, where did you learn this stuff from, right? Because she never went to school or studied. She was just like, when she does meditation and Jap and Gurbani, it just comes from within her, these kind of shabads. And Guru Sahib gives it as like candy. This is the analogy she was saying. And like candy, Guru Sahib will give you a little bit to taste, and then you want more of it, and you go deeper and deeper, and you keep getting more. So I thought it was really beautiful the way that she gave that analogy.
That's it. And the pankti is just gunge ki mithai, you know, that jad to bol nahi hunda, how are they going to explain to you what this tastes like, right? But I'm just want to follow up on that. There's two things there. First of all, the vibration analogy, I think that's both conceptual, but it's also physical as well. You know, when you put the saj on your shoulder, and you must have experienced it so many times, and they're all tuned up and you're playing them, you can feel that vibration in your body. There's this very tiny vibration, and honestly that feeling is unbelievable how it feels when you're playing these instruments. But the other really important thing Benji touched on is the sabd is the most important element here. Rag is extremely important. Saj is extremely important. But the moment rag takes over the shabd, the moment saj takes over, you know, then where we are losing the most important ingredient in this recipe, which is the shabd. We're using the saj, the rag, to convey the shabd to the sangat, and to convey it in the most powerful way we possibly can. And I say to everyone, all my students, but don't let the rag and the shabd the rag and the saj take over.
Yeah.
Let me explain what I mean by that. Jitta, you will, Kai Kirtani, they focus on the sargams, the tane. Look, with all respect to them, I'm really good at this. And that takes over the whole shabd.
Yeah.
And we mustn't, my view is, we mustn't let that happen. Just remember that you're here to project the Guru's shabd.
100%. And to clarify, I think when we talk about this stuff, the reason why we're pushing rag to such an extreme is because we've lost so much and people have drifted so far away. So we kind of have to like counter that, right? Where it's such an extreme. Whereas back in the day, it was a norm. People knew like all these different crazy tals, sulfak, and the Sangat knew a lot of this stuff. So I think because we've drifted so far away, we're having to push to that extreme. Do you think?
That's right. Yeah. So what we were often kind of, people were saying you are, it's a renaissance or it's a revolution.
Yeah.
And I used to say, how is it, and actually Bible Deep Singh says this as well, how is it a revolution when you're just bringing back what was already there?
Renaissance is a good word.
Yeah, Renaissance is probably a better word, actually, but it's not very revolutionary to just bring back what we already had and lost. And that's what we've just been, Benji, us, we've all just been trying to work on.
But there's definitely been a renaissance. Like, think 20 years ago when I first came to UK, 2001, there was maybe one class up Midlands, one class in Southall, or maybe two. But then I think, and I guess the work started probably in the 90s from India, right? When they had the Raag committee and all the stuff, and Baba Sucha Singh Ji, right? And Namtari movement, pushing the Tanti Saj back in. And now, 30, 40 years later, we're seeing this coming to fruition when nobody can even buy a Saj because they just get swept off the shelves.
Yeah. And the remarkable thing, I suppose, is that now I think about it is that, yes, all that movement started in India, but the whole exam, it's in the UK. This is where we kind of, set up the exam, and we'll come back to that later. But, that the UK was blessed with this seva, right, of really pushing Raag Kirtan and Gurmat Sangeet in that way.
Yeah. Just this word you used so quickly, just for the viewers that don't know, Saj, Tanti Saj, what does this actually mean? What is this referring to?
Yeah. So Benji, do you want to explain?
No, please you explain.
Okay. So Tanta, is a stringed instrument. So, I mean, the history is that back in the day, obviously in Guruji's time, it was stringed instruments, mridang, jori, and we know that Guruji's best friend Mardana, played the rabab. Everywhere they went, they took the rabab with them, and that's how they did kirtan. And as time progressed, Tanti Saj, that's just the only way kirtan was done in the Guru's presence for many, many years afterwards. And then round about the mid-19th century, I think it was, the harmonium was introduced to India. And it came through Portuguese missionaries. Some say the English missionaries, some say Portuguese. I don't really care how it got there, it just got there. And the reason why they brought it in was because, their service, they used to have, you've seen in a church those big organs, which they play. They're like traveling and they think, look, how will we do our service? So they created a portable version of the organ. Once it reached India, it just spread like wildfire. Everyone thought, wow, this is much more convenient. It's much more easy. It's very portable.
No tuning required.
No tuning. Don't have to spend years learning this. That's it. I've got it made. And it's surprising the pace at which that spread across India. But coming back to Tanti Saj, we've got the Dilraba, the Sarangi, the Saranda, the Taus, Israj, and Rabab. Those are the kind of 5 main instruments. Some of them are much older than others. The history is, we don't fully know the history of all those instruments, but all we do know is that in the Guru's time, it was stringed instruments that were played.
And did Guru Sahib even invent instruments like the taus?
Yeah, there's legends that Guru Hargobind Sahib invented the taus, that maybe Guru Gobind Singh Sahib invented the dilraba, that maybe Guru Amar Das Sahib invented the saranda. I'm an academic, so I'm always kind of saying, look, I want to see the evidence, I want to go back. Haven't quite done that level of research yet. As a Pant, we need to do that level of research to say, yes, it was definitely Guru Hargobind Sahib that invented the taus. But they were definitely associated very clearly with these instruments.
And just one more point before we go on to the musical syllabus and stuff. Another key thing when it comes back to the Shabad and the Kirtani is, I remember hearing a recording of Ragi Chattar Singh, and he was talking about like his elders and like Ragi Samun Singh, and like what is the difference between them and like modern, or like not modern but Kirtanis nowadays, is they also had a Jivani and a Kamai behind them as well, which is a very important thing which gets overlooked nowadays. Like they kept like Jat Sat, they did a lot of Nityanim, Bani as well, Bhakti. So they had all of this behind them when they're doing the Kirtan. And that's when you hear these recordings and you can feel like they were in that mode where they're just fully into the Kirtan, the Shabad, right?
Yeah. The term we use is Galana. And what that is a very, very strict discipline. And they were Sikh first, that was the tenets upon which they built their Kirtan Jeevani. And you look at by Jatar Singh, you look at by Avtar Singh, and in a Ginne Saal, how many years they spent doing seva at, like by Avtar Singh at Bangla Sahib, and all these Raagis, they had a duty, doni duty sari apni umar nibaiya. All through their life, they did that duty of Kirtan. And you can see it in their Jeevan, you can feel it in their voice, in every sub, every akkar that comes out of their voice, you can feel it there. And yes, they had an absolutely solid Netanem behind that as well. And my maybe controversial feelings are that now anyone can just become a Darbar Sahib head Raagi. I mean, there's so many of them now, but back in the day, I mean, I've spoke to Bhai Avtar Singh a real lot. They came in 2005. We spent almost the whole tour with them, and every time they came, and they told us that to become a Darbar Sahib Raagi, you had to first of all pass a test. They picked certain Raagis to kind of test. Does this guy even know Kirtan, right? And no one ever claimed to be Darbar Sahib Hazuri Raagi. No one ever claimed that. They just demonstrated it in their actions. That 15-20 saal ene itthe seva kiti hai. And look, by Balabir Singh, I've never actually, I don't know if I might be proven wrong, I've never heard them referred to as Hazuri Raagi, right? All I know is that they did seva at Darbar Sahib for...
It's on the CDs and on the recordings.
Like I said, I'm an academic, I'm willing to be proven wrong.
Maybe he didn't put that there, T-series.
But, we just knew that he spent years and years and years and years doing Kirtan there. So... Galana is the point.
Do you know any of the tests that they had to do?
Well, yes, Bill, obviously Bani Sudha Honi Chahiye, they had to know all the rags in the Guru Granth Sahib. Ona di Reni Beni, right, understanding all that. They'd say, do a Partal, right? So there's a very popular Partal in Peron.
So can you explain what was a Partal as well?
Partal is basically so you've got a rhythmic cycle, Tintal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're up to 16. Da din din da da din din da da din din da da din din da. That cycle just kind of goes on. And then in the middle of the Shabda, you change the cycle to a different dal, like Rupak din 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 din, and then change back. That is quite difficult to do. And so what they would do is they'd test, is this Raagi that good? That they can do a Partal, and they might say, Peron, di jeri Partal ya Pratapal, Prab Kirpal, Osna. On the spot, they'd say, show me this, do you know Gauri Gwadari? Right? These are very awkward rag, as in very difficult rag. And that's what they do, and sit with them, and then they say, Hanji, this Raagi hai kar sakta utte Kirtan, right? So it wasn't cheap, it was very difficult, seva bahut mengi hai, right? Bahut mengi hai. It's not something anyone can just go and do.
Another key thing, when speaking to a few like Kirtanis who are a bit low key, one really good advice they said is like a lot of youth nowadays are really excited, they want to go to the stage and do Kirtan, but actually who are you doing the Kirtan for, right? You're doing the Kirtan for Guru Sahib, and you don't have to do Kirtan in Sangat. You can always sit on your own and just connect and do Kirtan on your own, right? And build that kind of relationship with Guruji before putting yourself in Sangat and like in front of people, right? Because then that can also lead to a negative thing. If you're always in front of people, it could be like a show-off thing or like an ego thing, right? Yeah. So it's a very delicate balance of
that is absolutely true. So what I always say to my students is that you are the Guru's voice. The Guru is speaking through you. So don't underestimate the duty that you've got. Respect the tradition. You have a duty to perform there. The Guru's asked you to duty that you are. An analogy that I also like is at Nanaksar, when I grew up, the Raagis in the morning used to sit in front of the Darbar in front of the Sachkhand and do Kirtan. No idea who's coming, who's not coming behind you. You just sit there and do Kirtan in front of the Guru. And we were given, the duty, Sanu Seva Mili Sigi, to do Asadivar and evening Kirtan at a Gurdwara here in Birmingham. And we did it for 22 years.
Wow.
And we did the Asadivar every Sunday, not every morning, every Sunday. 95% of the time the Darbar was empty, but we had to do it at 4 o'clock. And we did, we grew up kind of not really bothering whether Sangat was there or not, knowing full well that we're doing this because Guruji they want to hear the Kirtan, right? So if the Sangat wants to come and listen, Ajavo, but we're doing because Guru nu Kirtan pyara lagda hai, right? Still, right? And yes, we've got a duty to the Sangat, but we've also got a duty to the Guru as well. And a lot of Kirtani, they've got a duty to the Sangat, but not a duty to the Guru. And I think we've got to just change our focus a little bit and say, yes, I'm the Guru's voice, Sangat nu Kirtan Snana, so that their Atamona, the Atamaras and everything else gets fulfilled. But we've got a duty to the Guru that we have to fulfill.
It's interesting you said that term Atam Ras, because people associate that with like having 2-3 vaje,
yeah,
double stage.
double stage.
Well, yeah, we need to do a.
We're gonna do it. Wolverhampton is coming.
We're planning it actually.
Yeah.
We're planning
There's
it.
gonna be there's gonna be like 60 Dilrubas in the Darbar.
Yeah.
A lot of microphones.
I don't need microphones. We're gonna microphones out of the window.
Yeah, this is definitely in planning.
It actually happened in Singh Sabha in Guru Nanak Road in Southall. It was about 30 instruments.
Wow.
It was pretty impactful. So the whole stage was full. The people sitting in front, people sitting inside at the back, and everybody singing the same Shabbat. So
There'll be no stage big enough for us.
Yeah. We just take the stage out. We just take the stage out, and everybody just sits in the Sangha.
That's it. That's the way to do it. Facing the Guru.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that. 30th November. Be there. Be there with a camera.
Well, just before we go into the main topic, just the final question, just to build up to that, because I think it gives a lot of context as well, which is you've mentioned things like students, and you've spoken about your many years of Action Kirtan Seva, which is really important to have this kind of background and this foundation. So how has that come about in terms of, you spoke about, at the age of 4, you started listening to Kirtan, and then that had a profound effect. So how have you now developed, and Benji as well yourself being involved in this Seva going forward, how has that journey gone from just listening to Kirtan to now learning Kirtan, then to now teaching Kirtan to various students as well?
You start, Benji.
I just help Ustadji. I help my Ustadji. So because in Southall there is my Ustad Surjit Singh, Ustad Surjit Singh ji, they teach class probably every day, and there's group classes Fridays, Saturdays. So I'll just assist them. There's a lot of students, and with Tanti Saj it's quite difficult to, if your group is at different levels, you have to differentiate what you're teaching them. Either nobody will learn anything, or very few people will do so. We have to split. So there's
And how long have you been learning for Benji?
22,
As in
3 years.
from
Ustad
Surjit Singh?
Yeah,
Wow,
from
wow.
2003.
Wow.
But not the whole time. I had more breaks than actual learning. So yeah, but I'm back into it. So you can say 2 years. 2 years every day.
Never ends.
Yeah. And obviously I listened to Kirtan at the age of 6. I was introduced to Professor Santokh Singh at Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smethi, and I spent 4 years learning from him in the morning, early morning, like before their Asadivar. And then when Gurdwara Nanak Sar opened here in Birmingham at Cape Hill, Sant Gurdev Singh, I started to learn there from Ustad Ranjit Singh. Then Millaji came and was learning from them. And then it was actually Millaji and Baiji who told me to start teaching other kids, because there were just too many kids to. And Jomin Wada Siga used to just help out, and I'm kind of like 11, 12 years old at that time. So I'm, just some random 11-year-old kid teaching other people. But it all really started in 1997 when I started to learn off Ustad Surjit Singh. And I started to learn, and I started to teach 2 or 3 kids here in Birmingham. And we also started to do this massive Sikh society round where Sikh societies would call us and we'd go with our Tanti Saja do Kirtan. And we're like, wow, we've never heard this before. And more interest grew, more and more people wanted to learn. And steadily we just built from there, really.
Wow.
And now I don't know how many students we've got. There must be about 130 across. I think it's 9 classes in the West Midlands. But like Benji said, it was 1 class in Birmingham, 1 class in Southall.
Yeah.
Now it's just, it's just so heartwarming to see how it's grown and how it continues to grow.
I think we need to give a big shout out to Ustad Ajit Singh because every
Big time.
Kirtani in UK has probably learned
Every Kirtani in the world
Probably, yeah.
somehow is related to Ustadji. Like, I'm serious.
But I'll tell you one thing, he will not say
No.
that. He will not say, I taught this person, I taught this, because they're extremely, unbelievably humble, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of qualities that I've very, very rarely seen in an Ustad, right?
Yeah.
That they know so much, they've had such an impact, but the humility is just glows and flows out of them.
So that I was going to ask you another question then. How do you know if you found a good Ustad?
Oh God,
This is really difficult.
That's the $1 million question.
This is really, really difficult. I mean, part of it is a blessing. Part of it is a blessing is for a student to find Ustad and for Ustad to actually find a good student. The person who's not going to be there for half a year and then they're going to disappear. It's a blessing either way, and this Guru Kirpa. It's literally Guru Kirpa.
I don't know what the formula is. it's karma. It's Guru's Kirpa. I honestly don't know what the
Any
formula
basic
is.
telltale signs that you'd recommend?
I think it's where it gets controversial, and you can edit it out the show if you want. But there's ustads whose personality doesn't align with Sikh values. Nimrata and so on. And there's too much kind of bad behavior across the world, really. It's not just in Sikhi. Look, this is just, we see it on the news all the time, right? People in authoritative positions. Let's not focus on the negative, but, just having basic humility, really caring and looking out for the good of the student, and wanting them genuinely to do well, giving selflessly, these are all the kind of qualities I've seen where if you give selflessly as an ustad, you will get 4 times the gun coming back to you. Right. Ustadji have given selflessly and they've got hundreds and hundreds of students. Why? It's like that only because they that and now they've given everything. Now it's not like Besa. We give away the Besa, it's not going to come back, right? That's it. Your bank balance is down by £100. That's not how this gun works. You give away the gun, and it comes back tenfold. You give away more gun, and you kind of can't cope with how much is coming back. And that's what good ustad is like.
Right, thank you for that. We got a lot of questions that came in. One question fits here perfectly, which is to do with classes. You can't name all the classes, but we could put it in the description. But somebody asked, how often do you teach at G&G Smethwick, and what days and times?
We are not yet teaching at Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smethwick. We're working with the Darbar Sahib to launch a class in January.
Yeah.
These are things we have to plan very carefully, and we have to make sure we've got the instruments. So we don't want to launch a class if there aren't enough instruments for the students.
Yeah.
We've got to ensure that we have an ustad who is prepped up, ready, and able to commit.
Yep.
And I can't teach all the classes, so we're now quite frantically going through a teacher training program where thankfully with Guruji's Kirpa, we've got a lot of really good students crept up out of nowhere, as in they've been learning, and now I'm thinking, my God, you can teach, you're ready to teach, right? So we've got to get them prepped up to start teaching themselves, and we're going through teacher training with them. And then, so we've got to do all of that before we can launch that class.
But do you already have classes taking place up and down the country? If somebody wants to start to learn Tanti Sarjan, they can just check one of those classes out?
So Southall, you've got quite
Southall,
a few.
there's quite a few Ustadji teachers on Fridays in Guru Nanak Darbar. Saturday mornings is by Gurudas Vidya Academy, which is in Old Hall. There's private lessons. There might be a weekday evening class in the Old Hall as well.
We can put them all in the.
Yeah,
We'll put everything in the
Slough
description.
classes. There's quite a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
So basically, you got to move to England if you're watching this on across, in another country, and either
but
Midlands or London.
To be honest with you, I mean, it's possible to teach online as well, and it's possible to learn online. And a lot of people from India teach students abroad. A lot of people here learn online from people in India. So it is possible. Of course, it's completely different from being able to sit with your ustad and, get lesson in person. I mean, in the days when our ustads used to learn, they used to learn every day, whole day. So they would go to their ustad's house in the morning and they would leave in the evening. And this is incomparable to what we're doing here. Like if you do once a week, 1 hour, that's people think it's acceptable. It's not acceptable.
So just to give some expectation, to make some good progression in your Raag Vidya Kirtan journey, what would be like a good recommended amount of learning every week?
Practice. So it's the practice.
Yeah.
It's the practice. How much can you practice? Really, people should practice every day, half an hour, kind of minimum-ish.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think, to get to a stage where you can start doing Kirtan on stage, from the moment you start learning, I'd say about 2-3 years, right? To just be able to do a basic shabd on stage. That is completely different to the Vajra. Yeah. People, I've taught people Vajra, they're within 3 weeks they're on stage doing Kirtan. This is completely incomparable. Right, and that's why Tanti Saj are difficult, but the ras you get out is incomparable.
And I think we were talking earlier, Penty, about how you use the Vajra when you're performing, and rather than hiding behind the Vajra. What were we saying?
I was saying that people, obviously it's much easier to learn Vajra, but also people don't really learn vocal. They kind of Vajra hides it. They play the key and they match their voice to the key rather than actually singing and hearing the instrument on your shoulder, and actually your vocal is the priority and the shabd is priority, and here with the Vajra is kind of
It's flipped.
it's flipped around.
Yeah.
Anything out there?
I mean, I do Kirtan on the Sarangi, and I've got a 13-year-old daughter who does Kirtan on the Sarangi as well. And the Sarangi doesn't have frets. So what you have to do is, you have to play the pitch and just align it, fine-tune it very carefully in a tiny, tiny amount of time to get the right pitch and sing at the right pitch. It's extremely difficult. And the Saranda is just the same. The Saranda has no frets. The Dilruba does have frets, but that doesn't really make it any easier to learn.
Do you know what frets are?
Frets.
Frets. It's like, imagine guitar, not dreads. He's thinking of dreads.
Yeah.
Guitar, it's got those little lines on the...
Okay.
Yeah, and think of violin. It doesn't have the lines on the way you put the fingers on the... Yeah. So with violin, you have to hear the note, so you know that you're playing right. You have to know where the note is. And with Sarangi and Saranda is the same.
Yeah.
The instrument doesn't tell you where the note is. With Dilruba, there is indication. There is this line. So I know if I put my finger on this line, it will be Sa, or this will be Re.
Okay.
With Sarangi, I know approximately somewhere here is Ga, but I need to actually hit it and slide it up a little bit,
Yeah, I just played dumb for the song. I knew that. I didn't know that. When it comes to instruments, only instrument I knew is the tone, but that was back in the day, right? So no, thank you for sharing that with me and the song, of course, as well. So thank you for that, Benji. Should we move on to the main topic of the podcast? So what's new? What's going on right now in the world in your guys' lives?
So Virji was sitting on a nest, and and in the nest there was a beautiful project, and there was sitting there for about 10 years, and 10 years, maybe more, probably more, and now the floodgates are open.
And so let me add a bit more context to that. So it's taken 10 years to try to get Kirtan on Tanti Saj. recognised by the UK qualifications framework. And what that means simply is that it is now an exam that is recognised by universities, by Ofqual, and it carries a heck of a lot of value. It really means something right globally. And it took 10 years because I spoke to many exam boards. They're all music exam boards because they're the only ones who are going to back this, hopefully. Went from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And honestly, we were going around in circles at meetings. Remember during COVID?
How many boards are there, would you?
There are probably about 14, 15 boards. And I probably went through all of them.
They all are online or in person? Majority in person?
They were all in person at the time.
Okay.
COVID changed everything. So go back to when I started, it was all in-person exams. I won't name any because I don't want to name examples that turned us down. But
basically all of them.
All of them. We went through all of them. Then it got to a stage in 2023, February, I remember, sitting with the GSI directors and said, I've just had enough of this, right? We're going to get Ofqual registered ourselves, right? So
basically that you can do the exam
be
yourself.
Our own exam board, right? And Ofqual met with them 3 times and they gave me all the paperwork, and it was really scary how much paperwork there was, what we had to do. They said it's going to take you 2-3 years to do this. I thought, that's fine. I've already spent, so long. And we did that. Then magically MTB appeared and said, we're really interested in your project. Can we have a meeting? We had a meeting. So, MTB is Music Teachers Board.
And are they new Music Teachers Board or one of the oldest ones?
They are newer. So there are some that are 30 years old. MTB are probably about 10, 15 years old. And MTB Music Teachers Board, they've got 3,000 centres around the world. And I suppose the bit where they really took off was during COVID. What happened during COVID was people couldn't sit exams anymore. So people had been preparing for grade 3 piano. Kids were, and they couldn't sit the exam for 2 years. And then when society opened again, they found that there's a backlog that big and they still can't sit, they couldn't sit the exams. What MTB did was they went online straight away, and they offered...
In COVID or after, straight after?
During COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, they were online. They were offering their exams online. And so people were switching from other exam boards to MTB, and suddenly they just became really, really big. MTB were deeply interested in what we're doing in this music, had a few meetings with them, and then they said, yep, we're going to back you. You do the development work, and these are the rules. And it's very, very rigorous, honestly. But, that didn't kind of worry me because my bread and butter is academia. I've validated degree courses. I've sat on panels for 20 plus years. The rigor that comes with a kind of university level academia, and not just university, but excellent world-class universities was kind of, bread and butter for me. So that didn't worry me. Then what we did was Benji came on board and we set up a curriculum committee, and we spent a few days kind of working out, okay, we've got the go-ahead. What is this exam going to look like? What is pre-grade? What is grade 1? What is grade 2? What is, how do we structure all this? Had some brilliant conversations, lots of disagreements, right? And compromises as well, because that's what you have to do. Look, one of my goals was this, that if we're going to do this, it has to be consensus driven. This can't be Harjinder Singh Lallie's exam. I know MTB have said, go ahead. I'm not going to just go away, sit in a dark room and just develop it and say, here you go. I need to get consensus. I need other opinions. We need other views. Because if you do that, then a lot more people will buy into it.
And how many views? What does a team look like? Is it just you two? Is there more?
No,
there's about 15 people.
Wow.
Yeah. It's quite a big team, and it is growing very steadily.
But that was the idea, right? To start it with a smaller team, do the first steps, and then at the later stages you can involve more people. And because if you have too many opinions at the beginning, we're never gonna get it off the ground, right? So,
yeah.
And when you guys say exam, like a lot of people are imagining I'm going to exam hall, opening on a paper, So what is this exam then?
Okay, so,
So I can say it. So it's people who sat piano exams or like violin exams, they will have an idea of what it is. It's a music exam. How piano exam happens is that you come to, like the traditional ones, you come to a hall, church hall or something. There's a piano, you practice quickly, then you go in front of the panel, you play your scales, you play your pieces, the ones you've pre-selected and you learned, practiced, and then they send you the grade. So here, this is online system. You have 9 grades in total, from complete beginner to like performance, not performance level.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Performance level, confident performance level. Any complexities of Kirtan you can think of, this person will be able to do that. So in these 9 grades, you go through those levels to reach the complexity of confident performer. And I guess the difference with MTB, as Virji said, that it's online. You don't have to go to a physical location. And the other thing we haven't touched on is that it's international. It's not just UK based. People from India can sit this exam, people from America, Australia, anywhere. And it's recognized internationally. As Virji said, 3,000 centers across the world.
Just come back, it's 9 grades, including pre-grade.
Okay.
So that's pre-grade and then grades 1 to 8. Just in case any of the viewers say, hold on, is there a grade 9? But there is it's pre-grade up to grade 8. But yeah, that is absolutely dot on in that this is globally recognized. So I was speaking to exam boards and they were telling me that our fastest growing market is India. What they meant by that is piano, guitar, violin. And what is happening in India, and ustads and classical musicians are telling us this as well, is that students are saying, look, what's the point of learning the sitar? Did it as a hobby, fine, but I'm not getting anything out of this. My mate is going to learn violin and they're getting these certificates, and so kids are just dropping the sitar, not literally, but saying, forget that, get onto the violin because you'll get grades out of this. Now, what I want to
sorry, by grades you mean like UCAS points as well, right?
I'll come back to UCAS points in a second. Okay. But what I mean by grades is they're getting actual certificates by a world recognized exam board, by an international. My daughter passed a grade 3 vocals and she said, I've got something, Dad, I'm going to show you something when I get home. Got home, pulled out a grade. She's so proud of that document, that certificate. This is how it is with kids and parents, She's got a folder now with all her certificates, and it does fill children with pride and fills parents with pride as well. But let me just come back to where I started a few moments ago. So they're ditching these, and we have grown up. I've grown up. People around me have grown up here in the UK. We've all learned Kirtan. We've got friends at school who are sitting violin exams. Now and again they'd say, "I'll pass my grade 3, pass my grade 4," and I'm still learning Kirtan. Get to university, UCAS stage, and apply. And I've got nothing much to really say other than learns Kirtan. And my mate is kind of like, goes onto the UCAS form, selects the exam board, violin, grade 8, and gets 30 UCAS points, right? And look at what we've been up against when we've been applying to universities. We didn't even know that this is so valuable. Parents didn't know. My parents didn't know. I didn't know, right? It's only when, my daughter started to go through it, my son started to go through it, I'm thinking like, wow, how come we're not leveraging this, right, as a community? So now I think this changes the landscape completely because they put it on that form. But let me just come back to UCAS points now. So grade 6, 7, 8, you will get UCAS points if you pass. Depending on whether it's pass merit distinction, you'll get more UCAS points. But the bottom line is you will be able to put it on your university application. So all that time that, a child has spent learning, yes, we apne, shanti delay, for our own spirituality and so on, we do learn it. I mean, you should never ignore that. We should never kind of denigrate that in any way. But now there's also Sukhmani, then also you'll get the points as well.
Is there equivalent for those of different countries then? Like you're saying the UCAS?
That's a good question. USA works in a different way, right? So they don't have UCAS, they don't have this kind of points-based system. However, when you apply to university, you do list out your piano grades, your violin grades. I want to add one more thing to this, right? And that is that I've had years of experience as an admissions tutor. So let me just talk about what happens on the other side now. Yeah,
Best person to ask.
as a university admissions tutor, right? So I have been an admissions tutor. And let's just say we've got a course and the entry requirements, I don't know, are two A's and a B, or an A and two B's. And let's just say there are 60 places on that course because, universities, they haven't got infinite seats, right? We have to cap how many seats we've got on that course. And maybe we've got 500 applications, of whom maybe 350 are going to meet the grade criteria. How on earth do we make the offer? We can't offer it to all of them. We've got to decide out of those, who are we going to make the offer to? That's where things like, traditional Duke of Edinburgh, extracurricular, I've been playing in the netball team for, 5 years. All that kind of stuff now comes into it. And that is the point at which all these exams, the piano and everything else comes in. Because what it demonstrates to you as a university is commitment, dedication, discipline. Right? So what I'm saying to your viewers is, I can see it from a parent's viewpoint, but I'm telling you from a university viewpoint as well. This is how universities make decisions.
And not only that, it also makes you more like a well-rounded person, right? Because I know universities, they're not always, a lot of the top competitive ones, they want people who are well-rounded, not just academically.
That is absolutely right. And it does so many other things. It makes you a much more well-rounded person, but the impact it has on mental well-being is completely underestimated. As a Qawm, we haven't even looked at that side. What is the impact of Kirtan on someone's mental well-being? Mental well-being is like such a big thing now in society, right? When we listen to Kirtan, we feel good. That's all we know. I don't think anyone studied it, right? And I can tell you one thing. The Guru didn't need to study it, but he knew, the Guru knew that when, Kirtan is going to have such a beautiful mental, impact, a spiritual impact, a social impact, a societal impact on people's lives. We still haven't discovered all of that. So yeah, as a student, it has that massive mental kind of well-being impact as well.
And I think we can't really underestimate how amazing this is, because when I was younger, if I had this opportunity, I would have jumped at it. Because the only thing I started doing piano and I was like, I'm bored of this because I had no connection to it, right? I liked Kirtan, I liked that side. But unfortunately, there wasn't any academic incentive or anything like that, right? At school to push you to do that.
That's it.
So specifically now, the grading system and the syllabus is Watanti Saj, right? So what does that mean then? Which instruments?
Yeah. So this specific exam is created for 6 instruments which are stringed and bowed. So it will be Sarangin Saranda, which are fretless. Sukhdeep Singh. Yeah. Fretless. And then 4 instruments that have frets, which are Dilruba, Taus. You know Taus?
Yes.
The one like
Yes, that one. Tarshanai, which is like there's Israj. Israj is like Dilruba, but it's a little bit rounded at the top, and the sound box is smaller. And Tarshanai is Israj, but with a little honky, like a gramophone sound. So these 6 instruments.
And put the pictures on the screen.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I want you to remember.
and Israj as well. You missed it.
Israj, yeah, the one with the smaller box. So those 6 instruments. So this specific syllabus is, you can only pass with those instruments. You would not be able to do it with rabab or with the harmonium or without any instruments, vocal only. So these are for people who want to learn from beginning to proficiency.
I'm going to ask you a question now. Yesterday I was asked, we did a launch at Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smadik, and the response from the Sangat was phenomenal, right? But I was asked by someone, are you planning a harmonium exam? What should I have said?
Yeah, we spoke about that on the way here. So
what is the correct answer to that?
I think correct answer would be vocal, yes. Harmonium as a maybe side help, but not as a main vehicle, because you can't deny that harmonium has overtaken. And look at Dr. Gurnaam Singh plays Vajra.
Yeah, and a lot of these Ragis
all of them had Vajra. So I don't think we should like penalize it completely, but maybe it's a vocal exam, and maybe there is an element of harmonium as a support instrument. They can do it, but it's not maybe.
Maybe it's the extra marks you get.
Yeah.
Or knock off a few marks. If you're using Vaji, you knock off a few marks.
The answer that I gave, and you can edit this out, right, is I said we're not planning a harmonium exam and we're not going to do it, and I'll tell you why. It's because we want to move the band forward, not backwards. And there's even been a hukamnama to say, but in the Darbar Sahib, we should now play Tanti Saj. And if we could then say, okay, we'll promote Harmonium Kirtan, we're kind of going a bit backwards. That's the answer that I gave. I haven't thought it through. I'll be honest with you.
That's something we haven't really.
Yeah. We haven't, this is why I'm asking Benji, we haven't
having
even
a live meeting right now for the next part.
I think we need to go away, think about this. And,
so obviously like this was the first step, right? The Tanti Saj, something that has not been kind of created before, right? This kind of syllabus. I mean, there are syllabi in India for Gurmat Sangeet. Is the Tanti Saj one there? Or is it? Sure. I think it's just the vocal and the harmonium. There are a few universities and institutions in India where you can get Gurmat Sangeet qualifications, masters, doctors, PhD. But they're not internationally recognized, and I don't know if they're specifically for Tanti Saj.
Well, the cool thing about this is like you're learning an instrument and you're going to go grade by grade. And then how do you actually learn and progress and pass and move on to the next grade then? Do you have to have a teacher or? Yeah,
so you really do not recommend you try to learn this on your own, self-learn. You do need a teacher to
especially in the beginning. If you have never picked it up before, there's 100% that you need a teacher. Absolutely 100%. Yeah. There is a different scenario. If somebody's been playing already for many years, they don't have access to the teacher right now, they could pick up a grade and learn if they have the knowledge, previously built knowledge, that's possible. Yeah. But in the beginning, it's 100% you need a tutor. There's no way around it. Because how are you going to tune the instrument just to start with? Who's going to tell you how to sit? Who's going to correct your posture? One of the first things you probably spend 3-4 lessons in the beginning, just letting them know how to sit properly, how to hold the saj. Because if you don't sit properly, the sound is not going to come correctly, right? So.
And I was looking at your guys' booklet for the examination. What grade was that? The one that you... That was pre-grade. Yeah. So even it goes to the depth of how you do the bow, which direction it should be on, in which So that's a very in detail.
You have to be, because you need to give all the kind of pointers to the learners, but also think of examination. You need to signpost all those things so that you can grade everybody equally and everybody fairly. Because if one person is bowing left, another person is bowing right, another person is bowing up and down, it's not going to be the same. So
it's giving students a fair chance, right? So questions I've been asked is, for example, so what we did for the exam is we call it a bandish, a composition. It's the shabd is the bani, and the bandish becomes the shabd, the tune, and you put it all together, it becomes a composition. And what we did was we defined these bandishes. For example, when you hear Kirtan, they sometimes, when they go from what we call the sthai to the antara, so the verse, chorus, the switch over, they just play a kali where they don't sing. We call it kali vadan. And we defined that when you go from there to there, you have to do this many kali vadans. Then you have to sing the antara this many times. Then every step of the whole sequence, we've defined it in the syllabus, right, in the exam.
But this is just for the exam.
Yeah.
When person goes on the stage, they can do however they please, however Sangat is. If Sangat is responding, repeat it more times. By all means, do more kalis. It's not prescribed for performance. This is just specifically for the exam. Because if we know that this person, as a student, I know, okay, this is the requirement and I need to learn and I need to practice this. It makes it easier as well. I don't need to guess, okay, do I need to do it once or twice, or what do I go next? It's all written out. So you might say it's regimented, but it kind of has to be.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be one of my next questions, that if we standardize it too much, then we're just producing clones and everyone's going to do the exact same.
But this is for exam only. You can perform however you want, however your heart tells you, do it.
Don't forget, right, there's world-class violinists who improvise all the time, and the improvisation just flows out of their, heartbeat, out of their blood, out of everything they breathe, right? But they went through a rigorous process, examination system, got grade 8, then they just carried on going. So we're not stifling creativity by doing this. And that's the one of the, as ustads are finding out, as teachers are finding out, they're asking themselves these questions, right? So what we had to guard against was the following. You've got one student sitting in this country, and that student's like, I really don't know what the examiners are going to like, but I'll just do like 5 kallis. Then I'll do 3 entre, and I'll do it like this. Another student doesn't know what the examiner's going to like. And we're saying, don't think like that. Here's exactly what you have to do. You're all going to be examined against the same structure. Whether you're in India, whether you're in the USA, whether you're in the UK, you all have to follow the same structure. So that's what we've done. And as Benji says, when you do Kirtan, be absolutely creative, improvise. Jitta ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਾਓ ਤਾਂ Kirtan ਕਰੋ.
A beautiful answer about the violinist. That's a really good point. And so could you give us an examples, maybe if it's not giving answers away, but of like what is grade 1 compared to like grade 4 and grade 8?
That's really good.
Yeah.
So basically, if you think pre-grade as a complete beginner, so somebody who doesn't know how to hold the saj, how to hold the bow, you start from there. In the beginning, you learn saregama, so you learn the basic scale. You learn, in the pre-grade, there is 2 instrumental compositions, literally 2 lines each, one in Raag Bilawal, one in Raag Asa, and a small composition like Nanak Naam Chardi Kala. So literally the very, very first steps. Then let's go to grade 3. You'll be doing 3 rags that are more complicated. They'll have komal notes, so which are flat notes. You would have more complicated tals. You will have rhythmic cycles of 16, 7, 6. You will have slight variations in the rhythm or in the speed, yeah. So with every year, the complexity increases. So for example, grade 4 will introduce, it's not what's in grade 4, but I'm just giving an example. We introduce maybe a little fixed composition to play in the middle of the Shabbat, like a music piece. A title. So you say Tanasri Mahalla Panjwa, and then you go into Shabbat. So each time we increase the complexities, we'll introduce more difficult rags, we'll introduce more difficult tals, and this complexity builds up. So in the beginning, if you just get 3 tiny compositions of 2 lines each, grade 3, I think the book is like, I don't know how many pages.
Each bandish is 2 pages.
2 pages, yeah.
Right. So that's how long the shabds get longer. But yeah, I couldn't describe it any better.
Yeah. So if you think grade 8 you will be doing
possibly partal.
You will definitely be doing. You'll definitely be doing partals. You'll be doing the most complicated rags in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So we're going to be only covering rags from Guru Granth Sahib Ji.
That's it. That's really important.
This is it's all Gurmat Sangeet. So it's Guru Granth Sahib Ji. There potentially will be some extension Shabbats which we can indicate, say, look, this is the level 3 Shabbat. You can teach it to your students, because this syllabus is not the extent of what there is. This is the minimum of what we're testing. And it's up to tutors and ustads to add on to this. They can think of another slogan, Bilawal, please, this is grade 1, appropriate for grade 1, teach them, right? Complexity increases, you make a longer Shabbat when there is not just 1 verse, there's 2, 3, 4 verses, right? So every year we add on complexity.
Yeah, I'll add a few more things to that. Another question we've had is, I'm an ustad, I teach more than this. Is this it? Right. So what we say is, if let's say you've got a 1-hour lesson, and ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 20 ਮਿੰਟ ਆਹ ਸਿਖਾਓ, just focus on this exam. Then the other 40 minutes, just go for it. Whatever you feel like teaching. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਪਾਉਂਦਾ ਆ ਸਿਖਾਓ. But please devote 20 minutes of your lesson to this syllabus, right? Which isn't asking for much, right? And it gives you structure as an ustad, and it gives the student progression, right? But there's one more thing, and that is that from grade 1 onwards, there's 2 lists, list A and list B. In list A, there's 3 shabds. In list B, there's 3 shabds as well. And as a student, you choose which list you're going to do. You don't do both. You'll be penalized in the exam if you submit both.
Oh.
Right? You choose one list.
It's the same as piano exam, right?
That's
you
it.
choose,
That's it.
and then or teacher chooses for you.
Yeah, teacher chooses for you.
That list of shabas will assess you on all the techniques needed for that grade.
That's right. And they're comparable lists.
Okay.
So you're not getting any benefit from picking. List A is easier than list B. We spent a lot of times actually debating this, right? So is that shabd actually similar? Is it as difficult as the other one, or is that easier? Have we suddenly created a list that's easier than the other one? We've spent a lot of time, energy, and effort to make those lists the same. Now, you're going to get in a class, you're going to get students that excel. They're very fast. They want to stretch. They want to extend. There's a student where, as an ustad, you'd say, you're learning both lists, mate. Right? And I'll give you some more. And then we'll decide which one we're going to do. And then you'll have classes, Benji has them as well, where the student is just keeping up, right? There's a student where I'm going to say, look, you're going to learn list A. In Naya Bakar Naya, let's focus on that. Let's get that right. Can you see? So we're not stifling, an enthusiasm, motivation. That's not what we're doing here. This is just so alien to our community that's taking a bit of energy to kind of explain how it works. But once they understand, they're like, oh, wow, I get it now.
And I really like the way you guys have explained it, so that as you progress in each grade, you're learning the base level of the techniques that you should know, right? And the complexity increases of those techniques. Yeah. And by the time you're in grade 8, you should have a good general understanding of most techniques.
Yeah. There's one thing there about grade 8, and that is you don't become an ustad at grade 8. And the analogy I use is a PhD. So a PhD is designed to teach you how to become a researcher, right? You don't get a PhD and become a professor. It takes years after that to become a professor. You've just shown that I can do research. Yeah, you've demonstrated capability. And that's the same with this. You haven't become a world-class Raagi just because you're grade 8. You've still got all the Kirtan, the practice, the learning to do yet. Your journey has just started, which sounds a bit scary, but that's the way I like to kind of explain how it works. So Lang Lang, world famous piano player, possibly the best in the world, didn't become Lang Lang after grade 8, right? But years, decades practicing, performing before he became a world-class, possibly one of the best piano players in the world right now.
And another thing, I've speaking to other Raagis and Kirtanis, they say that some people have like natural talent, right? They can just pick up things, and some people, they have to work hard for it. And I feel like this gives them a really good system now. They can work hard towards something, and they can follow a more regimented structure.
That's it.
But also it's a great system because those people who are super talented just go straight to grade 8, sit there, get their UCAS points, and go to university.
So you don't need to do all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No.
You can just skip.
So if, for example, Virgi has students who've been learning for 3-4 years and the system only coming in now, when the grade 4 is available, they can straight away sit grade 4.
Okay.
Yeah, we've started grade 3 in my Nanak Sar Coventry class. So I've just taken them straight to grade 3 because that's where I think their level is. And there's no prerequisite. This is the point. It's not like you have to have passed grade 2 to get to grade 3. The other question I get asked is typical Indian question: what happens if I fail? Right?
You get to fail then.
In the post.
So you just, as a teacher, as an ustad, you have to make a judgment. Kei bari idda hunda hai, student kala peh janda hai that, oh, look, I don't care. Look, I just want to sit. Parents put pressure on teachers. And why haven't you put the student in for grade 3? Ustad just said, dafa karo, just put them into grade 3. They fail, right? That doesn't matter. Just your ustad will make a judgment. You weren't ready for grade 3. You're going to have to sit it all again. Let's spend a few more weeks preparing, get it right, and then sit the exam. Or the ustad might say, you know what, you were fit for grade 3, nerves when you recorded, whatever, we're going to move you on to grade 4 now. Does that Do you get that? It's not like A levels where if you fail you have to resit them. That's not how this works.
And so when you're saying the Ustad here, that's like, that could be in your local area, but the one who's actually grading you is the actual
Examiner.
exam board, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
go on.
there is, with examiners, it's because it's all submitted online, your Ustad will not be your examiner.
Yeah.
It will
Can't
be
be your
somebody,
examiner.
yeah, it will be somebody completely independent who doesn't know you as a person, doesn't know you as a student, doesn't know your Ustad. We should include that. Who is your Ustad in there? We definitely
You can see we're making it up as we go
no.
along.
But we
Yeah,
should.
it's a good
I
point.
think
Yeah,
we should
absolutely.
because he's my Guru Bhai's student. I should.
Yeah.
So there should be no biases. There should be no.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Are
is.
you one of the examiners?
No, I don't think I can. I don't think I should be one of the examiners because I'm too close to. I don't know. So we have had to think long and hard about where we are constructing an entire framework. It's like building a university from scratch. This is. Who are the examiners going to be? What are the rules? And that's another one we hadn't thought of until now.
Because the exam, basically, I mean, we haven't got there yet, but how exam works, it's all online. You don't actually go to a place and perform a Shabbat. You practice. When you're ready, you register via the app, MTB app. They've got an app. You register on the app and you get 28 days.
I think it's 28. Yeah,
20.
you pay your fee, you get a period of time.
Yeah.
in
There's a
which
small
to-
fee. I think it's like £18 for the
for
first.
grade, pre-grade.
Pre-grade is it? So there's a small fee. It's a registration fee. It doesn't go to any of us. It goes to the MTB, which is the board. So they're providing the exam facilities, which is online submission and everything. You prepare, you register, you record, and there is no. Do we have to record live or do we submit a recording?
You submit a recording.
So you have
yeah. can
you
just
have
keep
unlimited
recording it.
times to record, re-record, make it perfect. Yeah, and then you submit it.
Bit of AI in there as well.
No.
Well-
They actually, that's a good point as well. But
In the
it's not
future.
our problem. That's not our problem. That's MTB's problem. It's MTB's problem. Yeah.
The important thing there is don't register until you're ready.
Yeah.
Can I ask, how do you know what the prerequisites are of the grade before registering?
You get the book.
Yeah.
So you go on MTB website. You get the book. You can get a physical book posted to you, or you can download a digital copy.
Oh, so that's open to anyone could just view that.
It's the
Anywhere in the world.
pre-grade is available now. We can put on the screen. You can see the link. It's called MTB
Music exams.
musicexamsummer.com, and then you go into bookshop and you'll see Sikh Sacred Music, and there's two versions, physical and digital. You get the book. Everything is laid out for you in the book. Exam is not just the Shabbat. It's not performance of the Shabbat. There's other
important
aspects.
point, yeah.
Yeah,
Go on.
there are other aspects.
Technical part of the exam. There's two parts. There's a technical part and a recital. The technical part is worth 25%, and the recital is worth 75%. Do you want to explain the technical?
So technical part includes subparts to it. So there is a actual technique of playing the saj.
Saj palta, we call
Yeah.
it.
So you do scales on the saj, and you'll be assessed on how you sit, how you bow. Second one is the rhythmic part, where you have to actually recite the tal, either clap it or say it. It's all laid out in the book. And every year there will be more complexities. There will be single speed, then you'll do the same thing in a double speed. There might be some variations. So we're not just creating people who can do the Shabbat, but they also understand the structure behind the Shabbat. So that's the rhythmic part.
And the vocal.
And the vocal, there is a vocal exercise where there is no instruments. There is just the tampura playing sa and pa, and you have to sing the scale up and down independently. So that's actually, some people find it extremely hard, but it's teachable skill, and if you pay attention to it, it's doable. It is doable.
A really silly question just to chuck in there, because as you know, I don't know much about music, but is this not just playing the instrument? This is actually singing as well, vocals,
Of course.
for all of them. But
Yeah,
is that the same with like piano and violin?
No,
is this
no,
what
no.
makes this more difficult? You could
100%.
say.
So the analogy I used yesterday, and MTB were there yesterday at the launch in Smethwick, Guru Nanak Gurdwara. The analogy I used was, so you've got, a violinist who's been learning for 5-6 years, grade 4, and you say, oh, brilliant, that piece. Now what I want you to do is sing as well. just adding that one extra layer that I have to sing as well will blow their mind. Like, no, that's impossible.
100%.
And I think the Western world and the whole world need to understand that what we're doing with Kirtan is actually extremely layered. It's very complex. Bila Saj Sikho, and then sing Gurbani with the Saj as well.
Well, and vocal actually be in tune and then deliver the Gurbani. So there is so
pronunciation has to be perfect. This is the other thing with the exam.
Yeah.
The pronunciation is going to be assessed.
Wow.
So you can't mispronounce words.
So do your Santhya as well, guys.
Santhya, yeah.
Santhya isn't going to be tested, but
but that's
it's
in the way.
It's part of the, the layered learning.
Yep.
I mean, what we do, and I'm sure you do it in your class as well, is when we go through a sabd, yes, we learn all the Raag theory, we learn this, we learn that, we learn the emotion, but we study the shabd. And we go through it word by word and say, does anyone know what this means? Does anyone know what this means? And we go through all of that. So so the pronunciation, and don't forget Gurbani, we know it's not straightforward. There's so many languages in Gurbani. Same word can be pronounced in different ways, right? And just the word sad, can be pronounced in two different ways. But they have to learn that, and Ustad has to teach all that. But one thing I want to do is this. I don't want kids or parents to be put off this. Gosh, this is really difficult. Let's not bother with this. You've got a year to learn this. A year, to learn some Saj Balde, some vocals, some Dali, right? And I say, if you're an Ustad, but in your lesson, to pehla 5 minute Dali karo. Just 5 minutes, no more. That's it, move on.
It's kind of people do it anyway, right? If you're introducing Shabad in the Rupak and the kids haven't done before, you would first go through what the Rupak is, how you count it, everybody counts together. So in the way, it's natural. We didn't reinvent the wheel. We just went with what is there already.
Or at least what an Ustad should be doing already. Yeah.
Because you know what, and really good thing you guys are doing now is teaching rhythm. It's such an important thing because from my own personal experience, you can learn from just listening the tune and play on a vajja, but you won't understand the rhythm and then how to improvise. And even if you look at a lot of tabla players, they can pick up the vajja and play and sing and they know everything in rhythm. But usually vajja players can't really do the tabla. But the people who know both, like all these top ragis, they know tabla, vajja, dilruba, everything, because they've got good, well-rounded experience and knowledge of rhythm and all this. So it's really important to learn the rhythm, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Some ragis have had to learn tabla first, and then learn Saj or Kirtan.
Well, I'd say that was a great question I asked then.
Sorry, what was the question?
But it actually begs the question in the future that shouldn't this be given more kind of points than just learning a violin, because you're not just
that is a good point. We need to go back to you guys.
double up points.
It sounds much harder. Because you got to do 2 things now, or more than 2 things that you've said, and you don't just get points in this over, you get points in the next one. Good.
Yeah, I mean, we had MTB there yesterday listening to all of this and actually listening to Kirtan live, and they were like, wow, I didn't know it was this complex, right? And we, Sikh Qom, it's a spiritual exercise. We've never gone out there and told the world that this is what Kirtan is. Now, what we're getting, Spenji, we're getting newspapers, media, radio stations. We were sitting there talking, and I got an email from a US radio station wanting to do an interview all over the world. This has just exploded, right? Wow. People are wanting to know, what is this? And when they get to know it, they're like, for all these years, right, as a Qom. And what we want to do is we want the whole world to know about this. When a kid sitting in Canada somewhere says to the teacher, I learned Sikh sacred music and I'm grade 7, we want them to think, wow, what is that? We want everyone to start asking questions about what Kirtan is, and start kind of, starting that inquiry into this wonderful gift that the Guru has given us.
I think we can resonate with that so much, because that's the whole aim of basics as well, is that Guru Sahib has given us such a gem of knowledge and everything, and we're just trying to spread that now. And then you see so many people coming on board and being like, look, we watch basics videos and now we've come into Sikhi. We didn't know it was this amazing, you know. So it's beautiful to see that.
With the Kirtan and stuff.
Yeah, I think one point is that on top of all of this, our task was even more complex because we had to ensure that the right etiquette is also portrayed in the book and it's included. So one section in the book, and it's going to be in every book, that it will say that this is Sikh sacred scripture, included passages of sacred scriptures included in this book, and cover your head, clean your hands, lift it off the floor. So this is included on every page. It also says, please treat with respect. Amazing. So we have to do this. And
so this isn't just for Sikh kids, right? Anyone can.
Anyone can. It will be funny to see if somebody does who we didn't expect to, right?
One thing I'll add is this thing about Gurmukhi and Roman.
Yeah.
So we want children to learn Gurmukhi. We will keep pushing, to say Gurmukhi Sikho, but we didn't want that to be a barrier to a child learning. So what we did was we did a Roman kind of transliteration of each subt. So you've got the Gurmukhi version and the Roman version, and the child can pick.
So it wasn't just a copy and paste. You actually yourself went through the Romanized, and
we had to. Yeah. This was extraordinarily complex. In the end, I wrote a Python script to do it. So, and even that didn't work. There were still little scenarios that didn't catch out, but. So we've spent a lot of time testing the Roman is it absolutely perfect how we want to pronounce, how it should be pronounced. And it doesn't matter whether you're reading the Roman or the Gurmukhi, you will be penalized if you don't pronounce it properly. So just because, but I'm doing it in Roman, I should be treated more leniently. That's not the case. Sorry. You're going to have to learn how to pronounce it perfectly. So that's something that was quite fundamental to the exam.
So if you had someone that was watching this and they're not from a Sikh background, Punjabi background, would they have them accessing this course, would they have a fair and equal chance to be able to get to level 8?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess this course and access to the tutor, that's two things you can't really do without, especially if you're not from Punjabi or Sikh background, and you don't have access to the tutor, it will be very difficult. But I think it's fair to say for any instrument, if you don't have instrument, you don't have a teacher.
Yeah. Imagine saying to a violin, someone who wants to learn the violin, that you can just learn it yourself. Don't worry. That's just unheard of, right? It's just unthinkable. But I think what would be absolutely remarkable, and I would encourage Western audiences to think about this, is to learn this. Whether you're from a Western background, non-Sikh background, learn this, because you're learning a skill that is unlike any other instrument, any other musical genre that we know of.
100%.
Right? You are learning, obviously singing, you're learning rhythm, you're learning the instrument, and you're learning a language as well. Yeah. And what you're also doing when you're learning the language, so my daughter learns vocal, and there's a lot of Latin kind of, I don't know what they call them, arias and stuff. I might have got it completely wrong, but her teacher explains that this is what it means. And that's what will happen if you're from a Western background. Your teacher will explain this is what it means.
Yeah, for the different tempos they have it in Latin, right? And you have to learn it.
Yeah, and then what you're also doing is you're being introduced to a spiritual kind of domain that's hundreds of years old, right? And so I'd encourage, if you're from a Western background, give it a try.
I think this is amazing what you're saying, like what you guys have put together, Guru Kirpa, like just another way of doing Prachar of Sikhi, and you've made it so accessible to the whole world and anybody. And like you said, it's not just music or playing an instrument, it's literally having a conversation with Vaheguru.
Yeah. I'm going to go a step further. I'm just going to put it out there, right? So just as Indian students in India have been ditching the sitar and going to violin, I'm going to say to Western audiences,
ditch the violin. Ditch the violin.
Ditch the violin. Give this a try.
Yeah.
If in your school right? They've announced that there's going to be Sikh sacred music classes. Let your child have a go, right? Let them try it for a year, right? Give it a go. And this isn't, Kirtan isn't restricted, but you have to be a Sikh to do Kirtan. 100%. Bani is universal, right? But ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਧਰਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੜੋ, do Kirtan, learn Kirtan. And if you're going to do graded exams, then why not do the best graded exams?
100%.
You know what? Another interesting point is, because it's such a well-rounded, Kirtan is so amazing and there's so much complexity, you could probably learn Kirtan and then pick up a violin and you'd have a way better chance at doing it as opposed to doing it the other way around, right?
That's right. Yeah, because you don't have to sing.
Yeah, and you've learned all the rhythm, the tempo, all of these other etiquettes and stuff. And then another good point is, like, when parents might just send their kids to like the Gurdwara Granthi and be like, you teach him Kirtan, but you don't have any level of accountability, or you don't even know if they're learning the right things, right? So using this, it can be a good like baseline that the parents will know actually the kids are making progression.
That's it. How many times, Benji, have you had people coming to you saying, "Hanji, yo janda siga sikhn par sikhya nahi kuch," or they just feel that their development has stalled and the kids aren't learning anything.
Yeah.
Well, now it's quite simple. We measure the learning. Are they getting the grades? Yes or no? Yes, they are. Okay, they're learning something. Simple, right?
Have you found the balance, between, we spoke about this in the car, between making it too easy or too vigorous to kind of pass or meet that standard or that?
Yeah, that's something we spent a lot of time.
But we also haven't reached quite that point. We haven't had anybody yet sit the exams because right now the books are available and the grade 1 will be available within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So the books are available, but the exam submission is not yet available. So that will be, I think it will take a couple of months for the MTB to put it online. We might have to, because they have their normal requirements, exam requirements, we might have to have a conversation with them because we will have extra requirements. They don't need tampura, we need tampura. They don't need tabla machine, we need tabla machine. So there will be extra things for us to add to their standard submission rules.
Yeah. And I mean, their examination systems don't have any exams where there's pronunciation involved, so we have to add that.
Yeah.
And you know what? The more you've started something now, the more I'm thinking about this. This is actually much more complex, and it's not straightforward. But we're currently writing it kind of like, call it the examination guide, right? How our students going to be examined. And every examiner has to follow the same guide. So an examiner sitting over there, an examiner sitting over there, same recording, same exam, they both examine it and award it in the same way. That's something we have to do. We're going to have to moderate for the first year, maybe
a couple of years.
That's it. So what we might have to do is, all the exams have been submitted, the points have been awarded, will have to be independently. So we can't be, obviously, the examiners and sit and say, Sukhmani, do you believe this is 13 points? Do you believe, what is your, and just try to get to a point where we can all end up examining in the same way. Honestly, it's mammoth. It's a huge project. But with the Guru's Kirpa, look where we've got to already.
100%.
And we will just got a few technical points to resolve.
Well, a fair few, but going back to your question, is that once the exams start coming in and the results start coming in, we will have to kind of also reassess: is it too hard or too simple? But perhaps the answer will be that they didn't sit the high enough grade, push them further. And actually, you don't have to wait a year between grades, right? If you passed one with merit or distinction, you can go straight to, actually this was too easy, I'll go straight to 3.
Nice.
You can do it within the next couple of months. So there is no restriction how fast or how slow you can do it.
Is there any time limit of how long you have in between? No. So you could like do it and then a couple of years later do the next grade and could I do it? No, this is
I'm gonna do it and fail it miserably.
My question, because we kind of spoke about like kids and like doing this for UCAS for university. But can anybody do it of any age? But is there any incentive for somebody to do it later on in their life as well?
Yeah, so my grade 3 class is, I think there's about 20 of them at various levels. I'd say half of them are pre-university and the other half are, one's a dentist, one's a consultant, all kinds of kind of professions in that room, different ages. And they all want to sit the exam. It's kind of not because they're going to get UCAS points, but because it does verify their learning.
But also it pushes you to practice and get it on point.
Gives you a target.
Gives you a target.
I mean, what I see is going to happen is kids are going to be coming into school saying, I got my grade 3 Kirtan, telling each other. There's going to be that natural camaraderie that's going to develop. That's what we're hoping, that kids, parents, it's going to change the whole ecosystem. For tutors, it's going to change, we hope, their attitudes towards teaching. And we still don't know what the full impact of this is going to be. We had not imagined, I was telling Benji that when we launched, I just thought, holy, people will get to know about it. That isn't what happened.
Avalanche.
It was an avalanche of
viral.
Yeah, I mean, on our website, I think there must be now 35 links to newspapers in India, The Guardian, BBC, all over the world, and I'm still getting, on average, I reckon 4 or 5 media queries a day.
Wow.
To say, will you interview? And I'm going to have to send some Benji's way, get other people on board to just kind of service all these queries. We don't want to lose any of these opportunities. We've got to take every media opportunity we get and just get an army of us ready to talk about. In fact, you guys, now that you've interviewed us, you know about it.
So you just about knows the difference between fretted and non-fretted.
Watch the podcast. Watch some clips out on there.
Amazing.
And just that point as well, because that's fantastic. Is growing so much. It's an avalanche for media. When it comes to now this course being available online, when, for example, just some random kid anywhere in the UK, anywhere around the world, when they're looking at these courses online, is this course going to be in that same section for music, for example, or is it going to be more difficult to find? How is this going to be,
So when you go to their website, there is a list of courses. And Sikh Sacred Music will be one of those. So it's literally going to be there.
Awesome.
In the bookstore as well. So it's right there.
There's a bookstore and an exam store. So you get the book over there and the exam over there. And there's all kinds of other content that needs to be developed, right? And I'm hoping the community, of Ustads will develop that content. Things like piano. So for, I don't know, just picking randomly, grade 5 MTB piano, there's loads of YouTube videos. All the pieces have been recorded. People have done all the scales, and they've got their own, I'll record it myself. They're a huge community of developers, right? Composers even. And I'm hoping that happens here as well. That schools out there around the world say, look, we're going to record all the bandishis exactly how they should be played. And just put them up there. And then kids can look at that. They've got that resource. They've got their ustad. And,
but we can't do everything. We would like to, but there is so many kirtankars who could potentially do this.
So how could people help out? Sorry, how could they, if they want to reach you guys to offer their seva or services?
Yeah, just reach out to either Sukhmani Benji, myself, and...
Is there like an email address? Or?
It's on Instagram, Sikh Sacred Music Exams.
Okay.
So that's the Instagram profile for the exams.
Message us. Offer your seva. Honestly, we desperately need all the help we can get, because this is, it's brilliant, but we got so much.
We'll put a link in the description.
To
something that can help.
And then we can just respond and kind of get people on board to help.
The key thing is that you're not replacing ustads, right? And we're not coming after your job here.
If anything, it's the opposite, right?
If you think of ustads, they say, I had my 3 students last year got grade 5. He'll have a queue of students saying, yes, I want to do grade 5 with you because you train people to do that. So it's not an obstacle, it's a support.
And actually, when you're looking for piano teachers or whatever, they say I'm a grade 8 piano teacher, and I can get you to that level, right?
Yeah.
So we could have that for like
No,
30 stars.
check this out. I mean, I was speaking to someone and said that in about 5, 6, 7 years' time, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਦ ਰਾਗੀ ਬੁਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ, right? Just put it as a requirement. Must be grade 8.
Yep.
Right, simple, right? And say, because otherwise, with all respect, you have no idea how good the Ragi is and, what their level of kind of capability is.
Yeah.
That to see if you're going to sponsor them, then sponsor very good Ragis. Ask for grade 8, grade 6, grade 7, whatever. And it becomes I know. Jidda Kirtan you've got brilliant Ragis. They don't need to be grade 8. You can just know that they're brilliant. Kirtan on the board, it's really nice. Reni Beni is really nice. That's fine. Definitely, sponsor them, bring them over. But if you don't, then just have some basic requirements that this is what we're looking for, right? So just coming back to the start thing, if anything, this is going to do the opposite, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully your stats won't be able to cope with the demand. Right?
And with like grade 8, you said like it'll get you to a performance level of performing Raag Kirtan. Will it have like the structure of like you sing a Mangal Charan and then you do...
Of course. This is all part of that's why there is a structure for each bandish. It's got a structure. So you learn this, you learn it as you go up the grades. Yeah.
And is there any scope for like tabla feature instruments?
Yes, so we are launching a tabla exam. There's not a lot more we can say about that yet. Tabla is going to be universal, but it's not Sikh tabla. It's Hindu, Musliman, whatever your background is, South, North, Pakistan, Bengal, whatever, Bangladesh. There's tabla players all over India, and the development has started. And just watch this space. There will be a big fat announcement soon about the launch of the tabla exam.
Because this is Sikh sacred music, right?
That is right.
So what made you guys decide from just doing like a classical Tanti Saj and doing Sikh sacred music?
I suppose it's what we felt we knew best. This was our forte. This is what we teach. So we wanted to, that's... And it's the priority as well. Yeah. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah. It's a completely different thing to learn Raag and to learn Kirtan, because in the Raag is the purpose. In Kirtan, Shabad is the purpose, right? Raag is the vehicle. So it's quite different. To be a solo performer in Raag, it's a completely different training and different focus as well. So I guess...
Well, if you've got no more questions, we've got all these questions here. Yep. So I thought we'd do a quick fire round. Some of them are similar questions from before, but if you just answer them quickly, we can even cut these out at the end, make little snippets. You can put them on the social media page as well. So you guys ready?
Yeah.
Quick questions, quick answers. So first question, do you need any prior experience?
For pre-grade, you don't need any prior experience. The higher you go, the more experience you need.
Awesome. Also, do you need to be able to read and write Punjabi?
We would recommend that you learn Punjabi, Gurmukhi, and that you learn the Bani, you learn the Santhya, but we don't want it to be a barrier to you learning. So there will always be a Roman version of the Shabd, but we will not sacrifice pronunciation in the exam. You still have to pronounce it right.
Awesome. At what age do you advise that children should start out for this exam?
Advised age is same as for the Western music exams, around 6, 7, 8, 7, 8 probably. But if child is more confident, they really want to learn, there is no reason why they can't start earlier. And it's designed so that by the age they are applying to university, they had a chance to complete their grade 8. So basically it takes you up to 15, 16.
Awesome. Sorry, just to add to this, when we interviewed like Dr. Gurnam Singh and other Kirtanis, they talk about how when they were young, from being born, their parents who were Kirtanis, they would just immerse them in that environment of Kirtan and Raag. So you don't have to wait till you're 7.
No, yes and no, because here this is Tanti Saj exam. So remember, you have to be able to actually hold the Saj. If you're 4 and you're tiny, Dilruba is going to be huge. So there are barriers to it, especially if you're learning Dilruba or Taus. Taus, you have to be a tall person, right, to play.
I always say, if a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, 5-year-old comes, and I just feel, not just yet, I always say, but dorsal tabla sakho. Male, female, doesn't matter. Just learn tabla for 2 years. Then we'll move on to
or vocal.
Or vocal.
Yeah. Just doing scales and practicing singing being confident. Yeah.
What's the best Raag instrument to learn for a beginner?
Gosh, Raag instrument. Easier instrument is probably the Darbar. Sukhmani might not like me saying that.
No. I actually agree with you 100%.
Sarangi is difficult, and like I say, my daughter 5 years old when she started. Now she's, I'm really happy with her progress, but it's taken that many years to get her confident on this. So Darbar is probably a good place to start.
Awesome. You mentioned the complexity of playing, singing, and saying in pure form. How do you keep students motivated, and what role do parents need to play? It's a wrong.
Chappal.
No, we do not. We do not advocate Chappal, but I think the thing is, in terms of motivation, we're seeing two tracks of motivation. One is the exam. The other is we have started to do these Raag Darbars. And oh man, these vidyarthi, they take this so seriously. The practice that they do as jate
that pushes you immensely. Like Staji started telling us to do programs, and we have to practice 3-4 times a week. We have to get together to practice it. There's no other way around it. So you have to. So
I mean, and that's come about because that's the added layer of motivation, right? So what we do, for example, is we have 3-4 Kirtan Darbars at Nanak Coventry every year. We've divided them into jate. We've got the Handsworth Jatha, we've got the Coventry Jatha, we've got the Smethwick Jatha. Nice. And they just organise their own practice. You can see on the WhatsApp group the Handsworth lot saying, what time are we meeting? And you can see that they're all so busy organising their practice and taking it so seriously, right? Selecting which sub they're going to do, who's going to play tabla with us, how are we going to start the shabd? All that is so encouraging. So that in itself is very motivating for those jate. So there's the exam itself, but there's also the performance of that in the darbar.
It sounds like doing it in a sangat rather than doing something solo is much more motivating.
100%. And it's like, it's quite daunting to do a Shabad on Tantisaj by yourself. It's a lot of pressure. If you do it even with one another person, it just becomes so much more enjoyable. And the more people there are, this just becomes amazing.
That's where this is going to change things, because the exam, you're on your own, mate. Right? So in the Kirtan, you do get the odd student who's hiding behind everyone else. Might be sitting at the front, but actually they're just, being carried along, which we discourage. We try and get everyone to put all their 100% energy into it. But for the exam, I've told them that's fine. But for the exam, you're on your own, and you're going to have to be able to do it on your own.
Good part. Next question is, can you start at 17 years old? Would that be too late to get UCAS points?
If start at 17, it's definitely too late.
If it's complete beginner, then you will not be able to get UCAS points unless they're already super good and they can just sit grade 8 and get distinction straight away.
Yeah. So the answer is very difficult to know. Yeah.
Again, this was answered earlier, but just quickly to answer again, what instrument is the exam for?
It's the Taus, the Dilraba, Israj, Darsanai, Saranda, and Sarangi. 6 instruments.
Good part. Is the bandish structure like music compositions and a symphony?
As a music composition in the symphony?
Yeah.
No, bandish structure is just the order which different elements of the composition need to be performed in and how many times each part needs to be repeated. So it's not as complicated as a symphony. It's just quite linear.
Yeah. Symphony is multiple instruments. The violinist will have their own piece, the pianist will have their own, the celloist will have their own, and you can't actually put all of that onto one piece of sheet music. This is something we had to pretty much invent this. This wasn't no Karana, no school of Kirtan had a kind of a bandish structure.
I mean, there is a bandish structure which is traditionally used, and Virji basically invented like meta layers to it, which add there's maybe 4 different, maybe 5, 6. There's quite a lot of things that Virji added to the traditional system. So if you open any book, There are books on Kirtan. I'm telling you, come over to my house, I'll show you. So there are books, right, where you can actually see the Bandish notation written down, but it will not be the same as what you will see in exam. In exam, it will be written to you. You write this line, you first sing it, you first play it twice with no voice, just play it. You're going to bow in this way, in a particular way. You're going to repeat it twice. Then you're going to go to this line, it's going to be repeated twice. So every line's got a sign assigned, like a special symbol assigned to it. There is symbols assigned to the bowing. There are special symbols assigned to repetition, number of repetitions. So there's a lot.
I think what we have to do to get full appreciation of what we've done is just sit down and go through the book. I actually had to create a font for this, right? Because there weren't symbols that represented what we were kind of doing. So we had to create a font. And yeah, just even the bowing. So let me just explain what we mean by that. So, jad tusi khali vajade hain, khali means you're playing it without singing. And what I always get students to do, and in fact what we've done in the exam is we say when you start the shabd, you play the khali first. What that does is just helps them ease into the shabd. So you go, when you're just playing the khali, let's just say it's tintal, which is 16-beat cycle. So you're going to bow at 2 notes per bow. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And the reason why you do that is because you want the volume of the sound to come up. So you're bowing faster. When you now sing, you have to change to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we want the sound of the sarj to go down and your voice to come up. So we've had to prescribe all this in that Bandish structure. For a lot of ustads, this is like Greek. They're like, what on earth do I do with this? But I'll tell you one thing. All our students at the GSA, for example, I can just give them the Bandish structure, they get it straight away. It's like I look at my daughter thinking, how on earth do you read all that sheet music? Like your teacher gives you a piece and you just start working it out. It's because she knows nothing different. She's grown up learning that structure. And our children and our ustads, they will just get used to this structure. And the other beauty of this is as follows. At Guru Nanak Gurdwara Smedik, we did a shabd that there were around 18 of us on stage.
I saw that.
Yeah, we gave them all the Bandish weeks in advance. They all practiced it, turned up, and they banged it out.
And everybody was bowing in unison. It was really nice. I was like, check them out.
So
check them out.
all
18 people bowing in the same room. It looks really good.
Yeah, and there were people from all over the Midlands, coming together, and that's what we can do now. We can say we're going to do a Kirtan Darbar, Sukhmani, get your students, here's the Bandish.
No, I'm a student.
But, we can get them all, they'll all practice the same Bandish, we'll all come together and hopefully it'll all just, this is how orchestras do it. They don't sit there hours and hours and hours. They've just got it all written out, they come together and do it. But again, I keep emphasizing we don't want to stifle creativity and improvisation.
This is just the baseline.
It's a baseline and it's also for exam.
Yep.
And it's not hard to learn. It's not like learning a new language. It's just learning few new symbols.
Yeah.
Okay, this means this means this. And it's going to mean the same thing everywhere. So once you learn it, you're okay with the whole syllabus.
Amazing. Already touched on tabla, but someone's asking about, are you going to be doing an exam for the Jodi?
Possibly. I haven't thought that far ahead yet.
What about Rabab?
And Rabab, we're still coping with.
Rabab could be the same material, just different.
So it's the plucking that's different.
The practical side, but material can still stay the same.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions here. There was a few that were repetitive, but there was a few other comments just saying, well done to you guys and your team for this journey and developing this seva, and it's a massive achievement. And the other one was thank you for thinking about this community and developing something that helps Sikhs shatter the glass ceiling and enter the university by engaging in Kirtan. So some very nice comments and appreciation from the Sangat as well. And thank you from us as well. It's been a really good podcast. Really enjoyed it. I feel like I've learned so much. I forgot the words I used earlier, but there's some in my head. So I just need to come and look at those books, and that's it.
Just before we finished, one other project I wanted to quickly touch on was the Sikh gramophone project that you've been involved in as well, Dr. G. So could you just explain that and the significance of it?
Yeah, so again, another one of my pet projects was I spent about 15 years searching for old gramophones, and I just constantly wanted to get to the earliest possible gramophone. I mean, when I grew up, Bhai Gopal Singh was like, wow, this is Puratan Kirtan, man, Then I discovered, no, there's older Kirtan, and got to Bhai Santa Singh, then got to Sud Singh Pradhan Singh, and it just kept going back. And then
So in terms of years, how many years are we talking about?
I've spent about 15 years searching for this, but the Kirtan that I've discovered goes back to 1904.
Wow.
So it's the first ever recorded Kirtan ever.
Wow.
There's the discographies available. So the British, they recorded, they were brilliant at documenting things, right? And they've got the list of every single recording that was done. If you look through that list, you'll see the first recordings there. So we managed to find 127 of them, and we've started to launch them. Obviously, the Sikh Sacred Music Exam has distracted me a bit, but we want to get back onto the roadshow. We've got the first ever recorded Ardas, right? And what I also discovered was that in 1899 in London, the British recorded an unknown Sikh. It just says hymns of Guru Nanak. That's all it says in the discography. And it was recorded at a place which is now a pizza restaurant.
Wow.
Right? That used to be the Cobden Hotel.
Crazy.
And it was the basement of that hotel where the Gore took a whole bunch of, there were Muslims, Hindus, and a Sikh. That's all we know. We don't know the name. Don't know who it was, where they were from, where they went. We know nothing. And this is
1899 is before the regiments used to come from India for the coronations. That was 1904, I think, 1911. And this at the exhibition in the Hampton Court Palace, they said this was mostly students here. There were some students and...
This is it. We just don't know who this was. So
have you heard this recording?
No.
Okay.
What happened was I was sent a Ardas, and it was a gramophone of the Ardas. And for a long time, I believed this was it. I thought this is that first recording. And I was actually very emotional when I listened to it. And then later on, when I got the same Ardas but with the label on there, I realized that this isn't that 1899 recording. My whole hopes were shattered, right? But look, the thing with this is that it's not something I want to keep. We are releasing it to the Bant. It belongs to the Bant, and we're just on a mission to get it out there. We work with Kirtanfy, and Kirtanfy have been digitizing it, and they've been releasing it with every single gramophone that we release. There's a bit of commentary explaining what we're listening to. And it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, we have, there's a shabd, Manare Japo Guru Gopal, the Partal in Kannada.
Yeah.
That, when you sing it, I don't want to use the word properly, but when you sing it as it's meant to be, it's good 25 minutes long, this Partal is. It's very complex. And the Raagi recorded it in 2.5 minutes, right? Because they had to, the gramophones they were very short, right? You couldn't do long recordings, right? And you've got a Jodi in there. It's just absolutely mind-blowing.
One other thing I noticed is very high-pitched. Is that because of the way it's recorded? Or?
No, it's not because of the way it was recorded. Back in the day when there were no microphone speakers, we used to have to sing at a higher pitch to kind of get the word, get the shabd, people to actually hear the shabd. So it's not the way it's recorded, because when you slow it down, it just sounds really weird. It just sounds obvious that this has just been slowed down. So that is how they all sang. But, even like the English, they say that some of them used to sing on a different scale because they had to reach the audience, to be heard.
It's amazing. And have you noticed any like one of these old bandishes is like something you've learned recently?
Yes.
And you're like, it's actually authentic now.
That is absolutely Manare Japo Guru Gopal,
Yeah.
right? You know, there's one that I'd heard, you know, we played it, we've sung it. And then to hear it there, it's like, wow, this is going back, you know, centuries,
Yeah.
right? And you know, there's so many stories that surround this whole project. It's the stories about the Raagis going to the recording studios, the Raagis that refused to go to the recording studios, the Raagis that weren't able to go to the recording studios. There were Raagis who were told, don't you dare go there because they'll steal your voice. They've got this magic device and it steals your voice. So they're frightened of going into the recording studio. The other big vision that was shattered, I suppose. I had this vision that back in the 1890s or 1905 or whatever, everything was Dantisaj. Not a single one of these recordings is on Dantisaj. They're all on the Harmonium. So by this time already, the Harmonium had taken over, right? We were already doing Kirtan on the Harmonium. I could talk hours and hours about this. Honestly, even just each Raagi and their stories is absolutely fascinating. And again, it's such a shame that we don't know these Raagis. You know, by Meru, you know, who was he? Where was he from? Right? You know, where did he do Kirtan? Who was his Ustad? You know, is there anyone in his family still? We don't know any of the history of any of these Raagis. And the most intriguing question, who was that Sikh? Where did that Sikh come from in 1899?
You know, just another perspective on the Vajja thing, because when I hear this, I feel like the vocals of these Raagis was on another level, where they didn't really need the harmonium. It was just as like a backup thing.
That's right. And, you know, if you listen to some of the Indian classical and you see the photos, what you see, someone sitting there playing Vajja. And you've got the vocalist singing. That could have been what's going on here. We don't know. There could have actually been someone else. In fact, in one of the recordings, you see the Vajja. You hear the Vajja is not exactly in sync with the voice, which means someone else is playing and the Raagi is singing. So that is also possibly...
Because that's always been the key thing from the right. You could say Guru Nanak Dev Ji's time, they would just sing the Shabad and maybe have the Rabab accompanying.
Yeah, that's what we think happened, because Guruji, we don't know if Guruji actually played the Rabab. We you know, I believe it was Mardana who played the Rabab, and Guruji sang. You know, and so they were, you know, extraordinary musicians, and we never think of Guruji like that. They're poet, they're Sant Sabahi, they're composer, they're everything. But we kind of we disregard the fact that they were excellent musicians as well.
Thank you.
Any questions for me? I've got my final questions lined up. They're my personal questions.
One question for you, both of you guys.
Yeah.
From my last one for me is,
don't steal my question.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh God.
I see myself tuning my saj, all the strings to the perfect pitch, and doing Asadiwar.
Wow.
Oh my God. And still teaching me what these
Oh yeah, what those things mean, the fret.
I'd like to see myself still doing Kirtan and still just every evening my daughter and I do Kirtan at home. We're late today, right? But we always 7 o'clock we sit together and do Kirtan. And 10 years time, I don't know where she'll be. She might be at university, she might be married, but I still see myself, I hope, with Guru's Kirpa, if the Guru is benevolent, that I'll still have that opportunity to sit and do Kirtan every day. That is you know, that's the route. Aur jo marji hoi jave, but I've got to sit there every evening and do my Kirtan. Right, that's all I want.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Any questions? Ask my questions? Yeah. Okay. So I've got 3 questions. But the reason I've got 3 questions is because I thought of one earlier, but I thought actually there's 2 other good ones. But you can either answer all 3 or you can answer one of the 3, because...
It's like who wants to be a millionaire?
So the first question is, do you have a favorite Kirtan Sakhi? So like, for example, like, you know, like by Satta, by Balavandaji, like, you know, just any Sakhi could be from the Guru's times, it could be from after the Guru's time. That's the first question. The second one is, would you like to share, or could you please share an amazing Kirtan experience that you may have had in Sangat or that you've heard of? Like, that's quite open. The final one is that, do you have I keep leave this quite open, quite broad, a favorite shabad, like a shabad that you always, that if someone, you think of a shabad, that's like the shabad that I'd connect to and that you love doing Kirtan too. So,
These are menge questions. These are really deep.
I can do my own bestie. I'll tell you a good story. Is bestie of me.
Okay.
So I learned this shabad once. It's 11 beats.
Wow.
Yes, and I decided to do it in the Rensabaya, which was not the AKJ Rensabaya. It was normal, like Raag-ish Rensabaya. But I fell asleep. And then they woke me up.
During the Shabbat?
No, in the Rensabaya, I fell asleep. And then they woke me up and I said, Penji, it's your turn to do. And I was like, I couldn't do it. It's 11 beats is quite complicated. Messed it up. And learned a lesson that don't try to do complicated shabads in the Rensabaya.
Thank you, Penji.
So I'll start with the experience. We did Kirtan at Hang Singh's Baba Sang once. They did a Dasam Grant Akhand Path. Don't know, can we call it an Akhand Path? But that's what they did.
Yeah.
And at the end of the Dasam Grant Akhand Path, they had a Kirtan Darbar. So we went down to do Kirtan. And I think I remember we sang Prabhu Ju To Ke Laaj Hamari. Prabhu Ju To Ke Laaj. It's very uplifting, very beaty, it's proper like Biras, evoking. And we sang that, and there were maybe 8-9 of us on stage. And when we finished it, it was just Jagara after Jagara, it was just like, when you feel the hair on your back standing up, because you just felt that everyone in the Sangat is singing this shabd, and you just felt that everyone has felt the impact of that shabd, and those are wonderful. But I think my favorite experiences in the last 20 years are probably doing the Sikh Society rounds, and we still do them. I mean, this is it, like 20 something years later, we've got a whole bunch booked now, right, for this term, where Sikh societies have called us to the Kirtan Darbar to do Kirtan, and the difference now is they're all on campus. Before, a lot of them used to be in the Gurdwara. And I think it's kind of sharing that journey and creating that kind of sense of enlightenment. We've just never heard these instruments before. Planting those seeds, and I just love that whole experience of kind of, helping these young minds connect with the Guru on campus. Many of them are living away from home. Term 1, year 1 is really tough, right? For some. And, bringing the Guru to their campus, is just absolutely love that.
Favorite shabad? Or we can leave it
That
there?
is a difficult one. I've got too many for many different reasons, right? Too many.
I don't. I have more bestie stories.
Chalo, thank you so much, guys, to Bhai Sahib and to Penji as well for coming on. This has been an amazing podcast, and I've learned so much from the podcast as well, and I'm sure the Sangat will, and just for sharing your experiences and this new adventure that you guys are going on is exciting, not just for the Pant, but for the whole world as well, right? So for myself, just thank you so much. Any final words?
Any more questions?
No.
Just for the Sangha that are watching, we'll put links in the description if you want to get in contact, if you want to help out with Seva, if you just want to know more about these individuals and the Seva that they do as well. We'll put links all in the description. Leave your comments. Hopefully we could do some more stuff in the future together, maybe updates when the Jodi and the Tabla and the Rabab exams have come out. Who knows? Whatever you guys are doing in the future, please let us know. We'll be happy to support you where we can and highlight the great Seva that you guys are doing.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank you.
Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji ki
Ji ki Fateh.